you for joining us. Chances are you know my guest this week. He's a very familiar face to most of us. Scott Brown is a graduate of Wakefield High, Tufts, and BC Law, a former state rep, state senator, and U.S. senator from Massachusetts, now a resident of the state he was born in, New Hampshire. He's a candidate for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by the retirement of Jeanne Shaheen. Senator Brown, welcome.
Great to see you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So, do you understand why the Republican establishment, up to and including President Trump, have endorsed former Senator John Sununu in the Senate primary and called on you and are pressuring you to withdraw?
Yeah, listen, of course, but when you have a government right now and a Senate, especially in a House, they can't even open up our government, our TSA, pay my nephew who's an XO up in Portsmouth on the Coast Guard, can't even do their own damn jobs, and they're going to tell New Hampshire how to vote. They did that the last election when Don Bolduc and Chuck Morse ran. Respectfully, you remember when I ran and took back the so-called Kennedy seat and stopped the Democrat supermajority, they also told me I shouldn't be running. It's the Democrat seat. It's the Kennedy seat. No, it's the people's seat. And it's the same thing. It's almost like deja vu. It's been fun. I'm having a lot of fun. And respectfully, people really don't care.
Well, it's funny you should mention the Senate special back in 2010. You didn't beat a Kennedy when you ran, but you did puncture the notion that a Senate seat could be sort of passed on like an inheritance. Now you're running against New Hampshire's most famous modern-day family dynasty, the Sununus. What makes you think New Hampshire primary voters won't just see the name and say, oh, yeah, another Sununu?
Well, first of all, you're right, dynasty, and people don't like dynasties. It's also not a monarchy. We're celebrating our 250th, and respectfully, those days are long gone. And yeah, good man. We live in the same town. I believe my qualifications are better than his, and people are going to look at us and make their own decisions once again. And yeah, it's been fun, John. It's exciting, it's fun, and I'm everywhere, and he's not. You look at his signs, it says Sununu. People don't know it's John. They think it's Chris, the very popular governor. They say, no, it's not. I say, it's not Chris. They go, who is that? I go, John. The father's running? No, not him.
Yeah.
I mean, Brett Baer had the problem on the screen.
Is that right? He ID'd the wrong guy.
They had the different pictures. And I said, it's John. They go, who the heck is John?
Yeah. So you're right. It's not a monarchy. Does that mean you have a no king sign in your garage? Or?
Yeah, no. We'll leave that to others. Okay. But we're focusing on the issues, certainly.
All right. Well, let's talk just a little bit about the issues and the issue differences between you and Sununu. What is the difference? And if the donors and the polls agree he'd be tougher in the fall against the Democratic nominee, likely Congressman Chris Pappas, why shouldn't GOP primary voters believe that and weigh that?
Well, they are. They're making that determination now. There's about 35% are undecided, and we have our own metrics. If I thought that I would lose, I wouldn't be running. I think I'm a better candidate than John. I don't think he can win in that general election. That's why I'm running.
What is the difference?
Well, you referenced it in your opening. I mean, qualifications. I served almost 40 years in the military. He has no military experience. I have almost 4 years as an ambassador doing trade deals, Christchurch massacre, dealing with tragedies, dealing with ambassadors around the region, been to Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, Dubai, Jordan, Kuwait, know the region, understand the issues. There's no learning curve. A former senator, throw in the grandfather, which they have no experience understanding the challenges that our kids and grandkids have. Those are the things that people are talking about.
Well, as a grandfather myself, I'm partial to grandfathers, but I'm neutral in this race.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The one title I love the best is grandfather, out of all that. So
yeah, I have to say that is the best. All right. So, Senator, you wrote last month about the war in Iran, that if troops are deployed, and they have been, more than 50,000 of them, the president needs to go to Congress for a formal declaration of war. You wrote, quote, we owe it to those in uniform to ensure their mission is fully vetted and publicly backed by the people's representatives, end quote. The White House says that's unnecessary. Why are they wrong?
Well, first of all, I'm going to disagree, and that's the difference between John and me. As he got that endorsement from President Trump, he's going to have to do all that bidding. I've always called balls and strikes, and someone who served in the military, I don't want another Iraq or Afghanistan Afghanistan. I believe, yes, their troops are there, but they're not engaged right now. Okay, that's the difference. What they did is rescuing the pilots was amazing. What they're doing from the air and the sea and neutralizing this big bully in that region so that region can be stabilized, supported 100%. But if you're actually going to go and have a prolonged battle, I believe that that's my position, and that's completely different. You asked a difference between John and me. That's the difference.
What are the consequences of failing to go to Congress, or are there any?
Well, listen, you know, when Obama tried to go after bin Laden, it took 2 years, 3 months, and 11 days, and he had no congressional authority. When Kennedy did the Bay of Pigs, no congressional authority. So there is a history there. I happen to feel differently, and I'm going to speak my mind. I would support that declaration, but I just think we need to go through that process to make sure that the American people and everyone knows what's in front of them. We're all united to get this job done. You asked what a difference is, that's a very big difference.
You know, political power doesn't mean much, really, if it doesn't result in policy changes that are important. The polling and the results of special elections so far suggest Republicans are going to have a tough fall, at least lose the House and maybe the Senate. Are you happy with how your party has used its power, its control over all three branches the last year and a half?
Well, first of all, I'm already on record on a lot of these things. I think they've dropped the ball, the administration, on the economy, messaging especially. They were doing great things before the war. A lot of the things in the big, beautiful bill, getting the Social Security, which I know you're getting, and others are getting. You get that refund of $5,500, the no tax on tips, the accelerated appreciation, $500 billion for New Hampshire, you know, rural health centers. There's so many things in there that are positive. But they didn't message it properly, focusing on other conflicts aside from us. I want to focus. You want to talk about America first? I'm an America First candidate in that regard. Let's focus on America. Let's focus on the kitchen table issues that people care about, and they're hurting right now.
Well, when you talk about issues people care about, nothing's more relevant than housing and the cost of housing. Your old pal, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Republican Senator Tim Scott have teamed up on a housing bill that drew wide bipartisan support in the Senate. It provides funding for housing, revises federal regulations that have been hampering housing development, and bars institutional investors from buying up lots of units. Support the bill? Oppose it?
Well, the institutional one is really the biggest one. You have these big corporations buying swaths of housing, and it's really dampering and putting a real problem with people buying housing. But to have the federal government tell the states, and then the states tell the local cities and communities how they're going to do their zoning and things like that, that's where the real issues. I've been working on this thing for decades. I was on the Bipartisan Housing Coalition. I lived in 17 houses by the time I was 18. Housing is very important to me, especially. Look forward to being part of that solution. It was a good start, but you're going to run into problems taking away the state's ability to do their own job. And in New Hampshire, the governor's doing great work there, and I appreciate streamlining that regulatory process to make it cheaper for people to incentivize them to build.
If our viewers want to find out more about the Brown for Senate campaign, how do they do that?
Well, they can go to scottbrown.com. They can donate. They can volunteer. It's been fun. You know, you and I talk in the back room. I'm actually having fun, and I've run I think 21 times, 19-2, and I look forward to this battle. And I wouldn't be running if I thought John could win, and I wouldn't be running it if I didn't think I was more qualified than Chris.
Well, nothing's more fun than a WBZ debate, as you know. I know New Hampshire media comes first in a race like this, but maybe we'll get you and Mr. Sununu together for a little conversation later on.
Listen, I already accept. I think it's important. You know, New Hampshire first in the nation. People deserve to know where we stand on the issues. So thank you, John.
Good to see you, Senator.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're back, too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.